Hi, thanks for joining me today. My name is David Wright, and today I've got a very good friend of mine and guest is John Diking. John is a financial expert. So good morning, John.
Morning, David. How are you?
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, John. As I was saying, I wanted to chat with you about a few things, but I saw the BBC News this morning, and they were saying now that I saw the Prime Minister, and she said it's a global crisis. I think she didn't actually. It was in a question, an answer to a question. She didn't actually say we are in a crisis, but she mentioned the word crisis and said it's a global crisis. I also saw an interview last night with a financial expert from the Banks of England, and this woman put a question to the banks about the mortgage rates, and she said that a couple of weeks ago she went to get a mortgage. This is in the UK, and they were offering her 4%. It went up to 5%. She went to the banks today to buy her first property, and they said they can't offer her anything less than 10.1. 10.1.
Wow, that's really high rate. Gosh.
And I myself here in Spain for the in July, we went to a bank to try and change our mortgage because the mortgage has gone up 180 euros in the last 3 months. And I think personally, the way things are going, it will keep on going up, especially after Christmas, especially if we get into an official crisis. Now, when I started looking for mortgage rates, I spoke to one of your colleagues who gave me some information. It was very helpful. And our bank, which is CaixaBank, it was Bankinter before that, and Christ knows what, it's changed so many times. You know what the banks are like here. They offered us, it was 1.8%, which we were going to take on a variable. They wouldn't offer fixed rate. They said that it was too volatile, they couldn't do that. We went back to them and we went to Santander, and Santander offered us a better deal. Again, not a fixed rate mortgage. It was a variable rate. I think it was fixed for the first 5 years and then it was variable. We went to the banks yesterday and they can't, they've changed again. They can't offer us what they've originally offered us, and even though it was only a month ago. So now our bank, CaixaBank, Bankinter, whatever you like to call it, aren't interested in changing their mortgage at all. The offers that they offered us before, they're not interested in doing anything. They don't want to help us at all. And this is a bank that we got a mortgage for our land when we built on. They were all very keen. And then we got another mortgage through them to do the build of the property, all very keen. Brilliant. Now, you can't even get a meeting with any of the bank people at all. We tried to make appointments. In the end, we went in and saw a clerk who knows nothing, can't give you no authority at all. We've asked seriously for to meet him with the bank manager, and she said it's just not possible to have a meeting with the manager. So I said, does that mean we can't ever speak to the bank manager to talk about what our options are, or do we just have to leave? Because the bank is offering new mortgage deals to new clients, but they won't offer the same deal to us as an existing client. So I said, do we need to close our account with you, close everything down? We're paying over 1,000 a month in mortgages, 1,000 a month, with all our other fees and loans and bits and pieces. You're going to lose that overnight. And she said, we can't give you an appointment. So we angrily, we left the bank, went to Santander and said, look, what can you offer us? They're offering us 2.8 fixed over the whole term of the mortgage. There is a fee of about 1,800 euros to change, and our payments will be 30 euros a month more than we're paying now, but it's fixed for the whole term of the mortgage. And the advisor we spoke to in Santander said, unofficially, she said this is a very good deal and we can't hold this deal for more than a week or so because we think this will be withdrawn in the next few weeks the way things are going. So we're desperately, we've agreed with it and we're waiting for it to be finalized, which should be in a few days. If it is, we're going to jump at it because I think, and I don't know what you think about this, I think the rates are going to go through the roof. And so the idea is that we know exactly what we're going to be paying every month. It's not going to go up. With their other bank at the moment, it's gone up 150 and another 50. It could go up another 200 in the next month. And after Christmas, God knows what happens, So that's really why we're changing. At least we know we're going to be paying a little bit more each month, but it won't be any more. We know exactly each month what we're going to go, and it's not going to go through the roof. So that's the position I'm in. What are your opinion on this, John?
Yeah, so we've seen this happen before, like when the financial crisis came around 2007, 2008, rates went through the roof as well. And people that had variable rate mortgages, they really suffered, where the mortgage repayments could be double, just double in a few months' time. So I think what we've seen after that, like since 2009, roughly, rates have just gone down and have been very low for more than a decade. And people got used to just paying very low rates on their mortgages, whether you had a variable rate mortgage or fixed rate, and most people had really low rates. What we're seeing now is that because inflation is so high, everyone that goes to the supermarket probably seen that whatever you bought few months ago has gone up by around 10% because inflation is in Spain and the UK and many other countries is around 10%. So central banks are really worried about this very high inflation. They want to try to control it because central banks in most Western countries, they want inflation to be around 2%, which is something that is normal and allows the economy to grow at the right pace and for prices to go up in a right pace. So when prices go up by 10%, that creates lots of problems for the economy and the central bank's targets to be met. So central banks are now raising rates very quickly, and they're expected by the markets to continue raising rates. And this is now what we see happening, that the rate increase is then affecting people with mortgages, that banks will increase the rates on variable rate mortgages. And if you want a deal for a fixed rate, then the deal is worse now than it was a few months ago. So I have a friend, for example, that he took out a fixed rate mortgage about 2-3 years ago, and he fixed it for 25 years at 1.8, because at the time the rate was almost like zero. But obviously that's not available anymore. So whether you got a good deal or not, it's very difficult to say because it gives you certainty to tie it up at 2.8. But I think in the long term, we're not going to have inflation being 10%. This is probably going to be a short-term phenomenon. At some point, we're going to control these price increases. Inflation will go down eventually. We just don't know exactly how long it's going to take. But I think things at some point will need to go back to normal. But in the current short-term outlook is that, yes, rates have gone up and they will continue going up. And central banks have been very clear saying that, we're not going to stop raising rates until we feel that inflation has gone under control. And the problem with inflation is that it's driven by a lot of very strong forces, such as disruptions linked to coronavirus, which are still affecting us in terms of supply of products, etc. We also seen the Russia-Ukraine war has created lots of disruptions, which is driving inflation. There's been scarcity of some food products, for example, energy prices have gone up, and this all goes into the economy and creating price increases.
Yeah, I remember years ago, and it was years ago, when I bought my first property, I was looking to buy an apartment. I was about in my 20s, I think early 20s. And I wanted to buy a one-bedroom apartment, and at the time it was 55,000, which was a lot of money for an apartment. And I made an offer for 54, and they wouldn't accept it because it was just as the crisis was starting and things were going through the roof, and I couldn't believe it. In the end, I got a deal, and my mortgage rate at the time was 500 euros in the middle of the 500 pound in the crisis. I was paying 500 at the time. My first wife and I had a good job; we could afford to do that. But then, because of the crisis, once the crisis passed, it was about 2 years, I think, the first one. The rates went down, and our mortgage went all the way down to 200, and we were laughing, But when we took it out, obviously it was the height of it, the worst time possible. We were paying through the roof, and people said, "You're crazy paying that sort of money." But we needed to buy a property to live. We had to buy somewhere, and that was it. And I feel the similar thing coming at the moment. I can feel the same vibes with, especially with the banks. I mean, the bank manager, we were very friendly with a bank here because we sort of knew him outside of the bank, and my wife and I knew him pretty well. And we used to go in without an appointment and sit down with him to talk about the house build and stuff like that. And when we saw him about when was it, about 6 months ago, we saw him in the street and we were having a coffee and he passed. I said, sit down, have a chat, because he had left the bank. And he said, do you know that when we offered you the mortgage to build your house, because it's a mortgage to, when you buy land, it's a different mortgage system than when you buy a property, because obviously there's more risk because there's nothing there. So he said, and then with the project to build a new house here in Spain, you were the last people that we offered that mortgage to. The Bankintia have not, or Bankia have not offered anybody a mortgage to build a new property here since we offered you in 2.5 years. And I said, why is that? He said, because the banks just think it's just too high a risk, because people start building projects here in Spain and they don't complete them on time, and the banks have repossessed the land or the half-built property and they don't want anymore. So he said, we've had the bosses have come down to us and said, no more mortgages for help. So that was Bankia on Bankintia. They're not offering any more mortgages for new builds. And he said, there's been so many problems. He said, I've left, I've moved on. He's now a personal, similar to you, he's a finance advisor for a company, a big company here in Spain. He's not working for the banks anymore. He said it's just changes so often that the things to keep up with it. He said, and he got out of it. But I feel, not just from what he's telling me, but from what we've learnt from the banks in the last few weeks, going to the banks. Now, as you know, my wife works for the government here, the Andalusian government, and she's got people that work for the Hacienda, the tax people and that. So we know people, and they're all telling us the same thing. If you get a good offer and a fixed rate, take it, because the banks aren't offering fixed rate mortgage anymore because it's too volatile for them. They could lose out. That's why it's almost a €2,000 charge from them to change over, because they know, they're trying to keep some money, get some money from the new customers. But with the old banks, they're not even offering us any sort of deal, which is unbelievable. And they don't want to help at all. I mean, we're not in any problem or anything, but I'm just trying to protect us with the new house bill. And I said to my wife, if things go up, because we had a mortgage increase payment and it was almost €100 in a couple of months. And with what they're saying now on the television, everything I'm hearing, it could go up again in the next couple of months. And then after Christmas, if the crisis, it'll go up again. So it could go up 100, 200, 300, who knows? And that could really hurt a lot of people. It would definitely hurt us.
I think you were lucky that your deal, you were one of the last ones. And I don't know if you heard the saying about banks, and they say that the bank is someone that gives you an umbrella when it's sunny outside, and they want you to return it when it rains.
Yeah.
And that's very typical of banks. When you have lots of cash in a bank account and you don't really need a loan or mortgage, they call you up and say, why don't you take out the loan? And you're like, no, I don't need it, and they will give you a good deal. And sometimes when the reason they need finance and they may struggle a bit and they really need the bank's help, but then to the bank size, you may not be attractive as a client, and they don't want to help you. So that's the difficulty with banks. And
they're all the same. They're all just a business, aren't they? You've got to look at it. They're in it to make the money and make what they can. I had an experience with Bank of Popular. It was years ago. I don't know what it's changed to now, but Bank of Popular, it was Bank of Andalusia, or Christ knows what. When I first moved to Spain, when I got my first house here, I bought a house and I wanted a small mortgage, and I was introduced to the bank from a friend that was living there, and I went in and asked for, I told them I was going to buy a house, but I needed to put down a deposit of €3,000 that week. And they said, oh, that's not a problem. And I said, but I haven't got an account here. I want to open an account. How long will it take? And he said, we'll do it all now. And I went, yeah, but I don't think you understand. I was speaking in English and he spoke, because my Spanish wasn't very good then, and he spoke quite good English. So I thought, he doesn't understand. This is the bank manager. I need a deposit of €3,000 now. My money's in the UK and it takes a while to get it transferred over. And he went, don't worry, open an account. I said, but I haven't got any money. He said, how much have you got on you now? I said, I've got €10. He said, give me the €10. I gave him €10. I opened in a bank account. I said, but you don't understand. I need €3,000 for a deposit. don't worry, he said, have a credit card. Signed the paperwork, had a credit card. I said, but I can't pay on a credit card. We'll draw it off the cash. We give you cash. I left that bank that afternoon with a bank account, a credit card with a limit of €6,000 and €3,000 in cash in my pocket, and I walked out the bank. All I did was pay €10.
Yeah,
€10, I couldn't believe it. And when I actually bought the property, I used that bank. We went to the notary, and when I went to sign, I had a mortgage. I think my mortgage was for 8 or 10,000. It was a small mortgage. And when we went to the notary, they said, "Oh, your mortgage is for 20,000." I went, "No, that's not right. It was twice what I asked in the bank." And I looked at the bank manager who was sitting there, and he went, "Yeah." I went, "No, we said it was 10,000 or something." He went, "Oh, well, don't worry, buy a car or buy a boat or something, use the money." I went, "Yeah, but I've got to pay the payments for that." And he was quite annoyed, and he had to go back to the bank, which was just round the corner. We sat there and waited in the notary while he changed the paperwork and came back. Otherwise, he was going to give me double what I wanted. They were throwing the money at you, that was 18, 19 years ago. So unbelievable. Now, our own bank that we've been with for years pay all their money into there by direct debits, all their tax comes out of it, all their personal bills come out of it. They don't even want to entertain us. Don't even want to entertain us.
And they won't. Back now.
Yeah. So, I feel, we've got to do something now. And this is a serious crisis, which is I try and look on the bright side all the time, but what I'm looking at and what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing from people in the industry is that this is the start. And obviously, this is the worst time of year because Christmas is coming. People are going to spend more. Jobs will be closing down. Things are closing down for Christmas, and the new year gets quiet. What with the problems with the British not coming here to Spain as well, so everyone's losing out on the trade here and in the investment into Spain. The driving license fiasco as well is not helping at all. That's all unpredictable. So British people being very, very careful here. There's a big loss of revenue for the banks and for Spain in general from the British population. I just said to my wife, the other day, we've got to take the deal, whatever they offer us, to have something fixed, so at least we know. And then maybe in 3 or 4 years' time, if this is a crisis or things pick up or it changes, we can change the bank again. Because I've changed my banks here like I change my T-shirt sometimes. I really do. It takes money and it's a lot of a hassle to go and do it, but you've got to just shop around for the best deals. And hopefully, touch wood, I think maybe this isn't a great deal, but it might be a great deal in the future. The bank manager we talked to yesterday, she was quite helpful. She's a friend of a friend, so she sort of knows my wife, and she kept saying to us, leaning over and saying to us, well, unofficially is unofficially that, So she said, we were talking to her, she said that it's not as good a deal as we could offer you the last time you were here, but she said, personally, I would take it because I think things are going to be changing and we might not be able to offer this even within the next few weeks. So, I think things are changing fast. And if it goes the route I'm thinking and the rates go up a little bit, there are a lot of British people here that will not be able to afford their mortgage. And it will be definitely a big crisis again this year.
I think that's the reason why, because I used to work for Spanish banks before for 5 years, so I know what they're thinking. And when it comes to foreigners coming down to buy, they tend to give a lower loan to value rate, especially if you're buying a second home. So, if you, for example, if you continue living in the UK and you just want a second home in Spain, they normally give you around 60, possibly 70% loan to value. If you come down here to live permanently, they may give you 80%, but that's the very maximum. So the bank always has a margin in case you get a default on the mortgage. But it's not all bad news. There's been some good news recently as well for anyone that wants to come down to Spain, specifically to Andalusia. There's been some
some good news for Andalusia,
especially for people that have built up their wealth, perhaps in the UK, been working, and they want to retire down here. They got some assets. Not everyone will need to take a mortgage now with a high rate. So if you got some wealth coming down here, taxes have recently been reduced. So there's been some positive developments as well. It's not all negative, David.
No, I understand. I mean, at the event with Alejandro, there's a lot of good things coming out for Andalusia, and it's one of the best places in the whole of Spain to live at the moment for tax cuts and incentives to help British people. Not just the fact that Almeria. I was with Alejandro the other day, and he showed me some. He blocked out the names of confidentiality, but I saw at least 2 clients that have applied for the residency in Spain that after 12 months have now changed to go self-employed and work, and they submitted a small, very basic project, a cleaning business, and they've been accepted and approved with the same amount of income as the first year. Now, somebody said to me the other week in Malaga that they were asked for 54,000 for the second year to renew their visa, and they can't do it. So, this is a national law, but at least in Almeria, they're sticking to their guns on that. So Andalusia have got some good. Also, with the new nomad visa that's coming out, supposed to be before Christmas, there's some big tax cuts on that, 15% instead of the 27% for people working on the nomad visa. Lots of incentives. The Spanish government, especially in Andalusia, with the new government here now, are really trying to help with the tax cuts. But John, there was something I wanted to ask you, which I'm not a financial wizard or anything, but the capital gains tax, I was listening into Alejandro the other day, but I was sort of recording it and videoing it. I was quite occupied, but there's no capital gains tax now for over 65-year-olds if you sell a property. Am I right on that?
So this is nothing new. This has always been in place. This is if you are in Spain and you have your main residence, you're over 65, you've had the Spanish property for at least 3 years.
That's right.
That is tax-free.
Yeah, and if you sell your property here, and you invest that money in another property, you don't pay capital gains tax on that either. Is that correct?
It's just reinvestment relief. So you can either do the reinvestment, but if you had it for 3 years and over 65, you don't even need to reinvest. You just get free capital gains at no time.
Yeah, that's good. Good.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. There's there is a lot of good things. There's a lot of things that I can't talk about that Alejandro said to me are in the pipeline. And as soon as he gets the confirmation, he'll let me know. But Andalusia and this new government are pushing to try and attract the British people back, and they are giving some incentives and tax breaks. So there is some good news there. It's just the driving license has caused so many problems for some people, and it's an unnecessary hiccup, I think, that they need to sort out quickly. But at least they haven't said no on that one. They haven't turned people down. It is the negotiations are finished and it's going through. But once that gets sorted out, I think it should bring a few more people over here. But unfortunately, they've missed the best part of the year, the summer months. So hopefully it gets sorted out, ready for next year. Yeah,
absolutely. Let's hope so.
So, John, what news can you pass on? Any good news? Let's have some good news for British people here. What do you recommend? And also, I always say to people that listening to us talk on that, to get in touch with you, to get a revision on their investments, because there are some new things out now. British people are moving here, or people that are living here, they've got some money. It's not going to be any good to them sitting in a bank. There are things they can do. There are some options. So they should speak to a financial advisor or somebody like yourself, because there are some options now to get some more bucks for your money, if you sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's important right now to review your finances with inflation being so high. You got to make sure your money is working for you. So if you have any cash savings in the banks, even if banks are charging higher rates now for people who want to mortgage your loan, they still don't offer high rates to anyone that's got cash savings in a bank account or deposit. There's no interest at all, or a minimal, maybe like 0.5%, 1%. So if inflation is 10 and you're getting 0.5%, you've lost 9.5 straight away for that year. So it's important to speak to a financial advisor that understands Spanish regulations and the system here, as well as if you are from the UK, understands British regulations too, because you may have some investments that you took out with your previous advisor in the UK. Those arrangements may not be tax efficient here. You may need to review your arrangements. You may have some cash in the UK. High street banks in the UK closing down bank accounts and sending letters to clients in Spain. So you may need to look at options for that cash. So now is a good time to review your current arrangements with a financial advisor. Can help you reduce the ongoing charges on your existing investments. Make sure it's all tax sufficient and compliant here in Spain. So that's what I can help clients with. I have clients across the whole of Spain. I'm based near Marbella here in the south, but I do regular trips up the coastline, all the way up to Catalonia. I also look after clients in Canary Islands. So anyone that wants to be advised, they can just look me up. I'm the only John Diking in the world. So if you look up John Diking on Google, you'll find all my details. So recent good news you asked me about. Well, yeah, there's been some good news recently. A couple of weeks ago, the local Andalusian government have decided to eliminate wealth tax. So wealth tax is a tax on the net value of assets that you own. And previously, there was an allowance for 300,000 for property and 700,000 on top of that, which was like a general allowance. So a couple that moved down to Spain, between them, they can have about 2 million euros of exempt assets, and only if they had more than 2 million would they pay wealth tax. Since then, this week, we've had the central government coming up with a new wealth tax, which is a bit confusing, but the new wealth tax is now going to cover, so it's going to be taxed at 3 million plus. So if you're a couple, if you got more than 6 million, you will still pay wealth tax in Spain and in Andalusia. But many of my clients, they come in between those brackets. So they do have some assets they've saved up for the retirement. They don't have 6 million, but they do have some money to live off. They have the property and some cash savings and investments. And many of them will be below the 3 million threshold and pay no wealth tax at all. So this is really, really good news, specifically for Andalusia, because in places like Valencia and further up the north, for example, Canary Islands, you keep paying wealth tax. In Valencia, for example, the whole Alicante region, you only have a 500,000 allowance plus the property allowance of 300,000. So anything, if you got some investments and cash savings, if it adds up to more than 500,000, then you will still be liable for wealth tax in certain regions. So this is something that I discuss with my clients with the reviews, and we look at tax planning in general. We look at how we can save tax in the best possible way. Sometimes you can save tax by just restructuring your assets, or you may need to take certain actions to reduce your tax bill. But generally, I think Andalusia is going in the right direction. There's been the local government here is a right-wing government which is trying to reduce taxes, and they're saying that the wealth tax is only 0.6% of the total tax revenues here, which makes up about 95 million euros. And they said that the elimination of the wealth tax is going to attract a lot of people. They expect thousands of people to move down to Andalusia. I'm seeing increased interest from prospect clients that want to move down here. It's also going to drive businesses coming down here, because when a business that sets up in Andalusia, they can attract people that want to come down and work. And if you have some assets, you're more keen to come down now that the wealth tax has been eliminated for people with less than 3 million.
Yeah. I've got my wife works for the Andalusian government, and a lot of her friends do in different positions, from a chief of police, and we know a mayor, or two mayors now, and some quite high up political people that we are sort of friendly with. They're old school friends of hers, and some of them work with my wife. And with this new change of government, I don't know if you understand as well that when a new political party comes in, all the heads of the departments, they get chopped and moved around. They can't lose their job. Like in my wife's case, the job is for life. It's fixed, working for the Andalusian government. But they can do is restructure the people and put them in different places, doing completely different jobs. For example, My wife's boss, who's been in a job for 8 years, now with this new party come in, they've changed, and he's going to be replaced with a new person that has got no idea how the job works or how to manage the department, but he's going to have to learn. And my wife's boss, who I've done some work for, doing some renovations on his property, he's getting moved out of the area to a completely different job. He's quite worried and upset, but it's all sort of not how good you can do the job, it's who you know in your political party. And apparently the way it works is that they people do jobs and help each other out. So then when they get in the new leaders, they have a favour to put this person in this place, in this area, in this job, and it's unbelievable. And they have got no idea on what to do. One of their friends has been put into a sports centre to run a sports centre, and before that they were running a tax department, doing tax and books and accounts, and it was all sums and numbers, and now they're running a department in a sports centre. Got absolutely no idea, and they're quite a reserved person, and they've got to be completely different to do this job. It's just crazy, but that's the way it goes here with the change.
I know.
Yeah, but what I do like is a lot of the things, like you're saying, there is a lot of things here in Andalusia that are trying to help. Well, I'm not saying specifically the British people, but it seems to be affecting the British people, and it will help us a lot here in Spain, or anyone living in Andalusia. So that's a good thing, if nothing else.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that they also announced a couple of weeks ago that income tax rates will go down. It's going to affect people with lower incomes. Most retired people getting a state pension will be benefiting from this. So the tax rate's going to go down by about 4.3%. So that's going to help everyone.
Yeah.
Here in Galicia.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. So yeah, some good news. I mean, a bit of a doom and gloom I started off with. I'm not really concentrating on the negative side of it, but personally I've got seen some things that are worrying me a little bit, but there you go. But yeah, there are some good news, and hopefully it won't be as bad as it looks. Well, John, if anybody wants any help or any financial advice, I'll put a link in the description box below this. You're the man to see. You're the expert here, and you're all legal and registered and everything, so you're up with the latest. So if people want to come and speak to you, I'll put a link in the description box below this, so they can contact you and get some advice, because there are options, and there are ways of making your money work harder for you, especially British people here in Spain. So thanks very much, John, for your advice and help today, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you so much, David, for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Great. Okay, John. Well, thanks, John.